What is going on, everybody? This is Zach with Manda Mike, and I am back with another episode, and it is me all by my lonesome right now. This is a totally random episode where I just wanted to come kick it with you for a little bit. I got off work a little bit early and just kind of want to come and just talk about some things with you for maybe just a few minutes, if that's okay. It's been such a cool week. Man, it's been such a humbling week, a rewarding week. A week of like just making a dream come true of something that I've always wanted to do, sitting down, just kicking it right here in this garage, in this studio space with some really awesome people this week. And I've got so many more that's just lined up, and people keep reaching out. And it's just really humbling, man, just to see so many people that's wanting to get involved, and seeing some people that's just reaching out and saying that it's impacting them a little bit. That's all I could really ever hope for, is just to reach a few people that's maybe going through some things. That's the whole point of this podcast. I feel like as men, there's a lot of things that we don't talk about. There's a lot of things we feel like we can't talk about. And a lot of it's just our own pride and ego. And it's something I've already mentioned a few times. I'm sure it's something that I'll probably talk about quite a bit. But when I've sat here and I've talked to a few men this week, it's been so humbling and so just, gosh, it's been so authentic, just so real and so raw. God, it's just been so good, man. It's like you just can't get enough of it. You just want another hit of it. Like you just want to get somebody else in a chair. Like it's just, you just want to sit there and just like break it down. Like you're just breaking down some of that fine, sticky grain, you know what I'm saying? And picking out all the seeds and stems, you know what I'm saying? It gets you a little bit excited. And so that's kind of where I've been at this week, as I've been sitting here talking to some people and breaking them down like a little bit of that sweet sticky, if you know what I mean. And so, you know, it's been really, really good, though. And because the thing is, I think as men, there's a lot that we feel like that we can't talk about. We feel like that we have to be able to just handle everything on our own. And I think a lot of that comes from the way that we maybe saw our fathers act, or we maybe saw some other masculine men that we use as some examples in our life. We see them carry it so well. They seem to have carried it so much better than we did. You would have never known almost that anything was wrong with them. They were just these tough, calloused, rock-hard men that were just, you couldn't break them almost, it seemed like. And when you saw one break, you knew that it was bad. You know things were really, really turning sideways when you saw a man break down back in the day. But things aren't like that anymore. And I think that that's a good thing. I think it's the direction that we need to be going. I think as a society, it's only going to be more rewarding, more fruitful and productive. I think we can only grow closer, and we can grow from each other, and we can edify each other if we'll just start talking about some things and let go of some of that masculinity, some of that ego, some of that pride that holds us down, man. That pride will just hold you down. That ego, man, it just holds you down so much. God, that thing just wants to beat you down. That's all that thing wants to do all the time. It's almost like your ego is another person that's inside of you that just wants to beat you down. It just wants to see you mess up. It just wants to hold on to some things. You know what I'm saying? But you got to learn to be greater than that ego, because that ego will destroy you. That ego will ruin relationships. That ego will prevent you from friendships, from relationships. That ego, man, gosh, it'll just break you. It'll cause you to hold on to some things. That ego will cause you to start building up some resentments towards people that you maybe never was going to have any resentments toward. But it's just because of that ego. And it's what happens is because we know that when our ego gets really puffed up, and we know that when we make a mistake and we act a fool out of ourselves, and it's time to go apologize, we hold on to that pride as men for a little bit. We like to stew on that. We like to sit there and we like to cook on that just a little bit. But then there comes a point in time where we realize as men that we've messed up, like we've gone too far. Our pride and our ego have pushed us in a direction that has caused us to act irrational. And I'm only speaking for myself. I can only speak from experience. And so it causes me, ownership. It causes me to act irrational. It causes me to act a fool. It causes me to say hurtful things. It causes me to cause damage. It causes me to do a lot of things that I shouldn't do. There's really no good thing that comes from ego, I guess, unless it's maybe a competitive nature. Maybe if you got to race somebody or outlift somebody or something, maybe it's good to have a little ego there. But even then, there's still great humility that has to be kept. Humility is everything. Because it's the only counterbalance to our ego is humility. And I think without humility, we don't really have anything at all. And I think that, if there's anything in your life that causes you to lose your humility, because I think that when you're sitting there and you're trying to figure out some things about yourself, and you're trying to figure out, maybe prioritize some things in your life of how you should be and how you should operate, maybe how you should act. I think that the number one thing that we should be focused on is humility. And I think with humility, we start walking off a lot of that ego and a lot of that pride when we start seeing ourselves in the light that we're actually in. And I think humility allows us to see ourselves in a light that's much more truer than our ego allows us. And I think that we have to see things through the lens of that humility. I think that's been one of the most helpful things for me, is trying to look and see my life and see my experiences through the lens of humility rather than the lens of ego. When I was out in addiction, I was out in the world, I was out there acting a fool. It was all ego-driven. Everything that I did seemed to be very, very ego-driven. Of course, I was a totally different person then. You're a totally different person when you're in addiction. I remember, and once again, I keep saying you, I'm talking about me. I was a totally different person when I was in addiction. I was very prideful. I was very entitled. My ego was through the roof. God, it was something terrible. Man, my ego was so bad. But yeah, that's all I had, though, was just ego. I had a mean game. I could talk a mean game. I could act tough. I could do all these things. But at the end of the day, I was just in my misery. And my ego allowed me just to stay in that misery. And then there's a part of you that's just so prideful that you don't even want to talk to people when you have a problem. You don't want to say that you have a problem. So you just sit there and stew on it a little bit more until you get a little further in, a little deeper in. The devil gets a little bit of hold of you a little bit more every single day. Yeah, he starts grabbing a hold of you. You start feeling him grabbing at your foot there in the morning. First thing, right out the bed, you start feeling him. He's down there dangling at your toes. You know what I'm saying? Trying to pull you out the bed. He's ready to get you up and moving so you can get that fixed for the day. The devil done got you. Yeah, boy, the devil got you. I've been there. I've been there a few times. But you got to find that humility. That was one thing that I learned when I did get sober, though. I was sitting in the jail cell, and I found a lot of humility in a jail cell. There had been a lot of times I had been in a jail cell before that last time, but those other times were very, very different. But that last time that I went there, I found some humility. And when I found that humility, it changed my life. I started seeing other people through a different lens. I started seeing people I didn't agree with through a different lens. I was surrounded by a bunch of people I didn't agree with. I was surrounded by a bunch of people, though, that was just like me. And that right there caused me to change my thought process. It caused me to change how I interacted with people. It caused me to change how I think about people. It caused me to change how I talk to people. But it took some humility and realizing that I'm a very, very broken and flawed individual, and I should do nothing but be humble and be grateful. And so I try to find some gratitude and humility. I think that's the next thing that we need right after humility has to be gratitude. And I think the two have to be followed very close together. I think with humility does come gratitude. And I think the two just have to go together. As a matter of fact, they're like twins. They both show up about the same time. You know what I mean? That humility causes you to get a little bit of gratitude once you've been humbled a little bit, once you've been taken down a few notches, once you're down in that third level basement of your rock bottom, and that floor is feeling a little bit warm. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's about to get you. It's about to get you. But anyway, you got to find that gratitude. That gratitude, you got to hold on to that gratitude. You got to be grateful for everything that you got, because we are not promised one more day. And I know it's something that's said a lot, but the older that I get, the more true that becomes, the more real that becomes, the heavier that becomes. It starts weighing on you more. And then it causes you to change the way that you interact with people just because you realize how short time is. You start valuing relationships different. Yep, you start interacting with people different. You start holding value to relationships. When I was younger, I didn't really care about friendships. I just wanted a relationship. I needed somebody to be with. I needed to know somebody was going to be there, but I didn't need like friendships. It wasn't anything I ever depended on in my life, was just having another gentleman that was going to be there if I needed him. Like along the way, there have been men that have been in my life from time to time for short periods of time. And then something happens, but there's never been any long-term consistent person that I could just call when something was messed up. And there for the longest time, I didn't even understand that was something that I needed. I didn't understand the value in having some people. It's not been until the last couple of years that I started understanding that I do need people. and that was a very prideful thing that I had, because it was almost that whole, I can do this on my own. I don't need nobody. And I had that attitude for a long time, and I really liked being in that headspace, and I really liked pushing my own limits and boundaries, and maybe that's what it was a little bit. I don't know. Maybe I was just trying to push myself as hard as I could on my own. I don't know, but it got real lonely there for a while. I do know that. I know that I isolated myself from people because I was trying to do everything on my own so much, and I know that it was not good for my mental state. I know that I shouldn't have done that. And just thinking back on it now, it would have been so much cooler to have some other people to have experienced that with, maybe to have shared that with, maybe some other people to have cheered me on. Maybe I could have went some different routes, some different directions in business or in life, or I don't really know. But I didn't really ever see the value in investing in friendships or people. But the older that I get, I understand that a lot more now. And I've been very, very blessed and very fortunate in the last few years to develop some friendships with some men, some strong men that hold me accountable, that love me, that tell me they love me. Gentlemen, stop what you're doing. Stop. Bros, tell your friends you love them. Right now, if you're watching this, your people, gentlemen, text them now and just say, I love you. And it doesn't have to be weird. It's not like we thought it was back in the day. It's not a weird thing. It's not emasculating. It's not a feminine thing to tell somebody that you love them. Gentlemen, reach out to your people and tell them that you love them dearly and that you appreciate them investing in you and you appreciate them being there for you. And you don't know what that would do for that person if you would just take a moment out of your day right now and text that person and just tell them, bro, I love you. Thank you for just being my friend. Dude, oh my gosh, what that does for somebody. Man, that's like life-changing stuff. That goes a long way. That builds lifelong relationships. You know what I mean? When you sit there and you show somebody that you care enough just to tell them you love them. Men, we don't tell each other we love each other enough. And we need to make that a common thing. We need to make that a normal thing. That needs to become an everyday thing. So when my friends, when we leave each other, I tell them I love them every time. And they tell me the same thing. When we get off the phone, we do the same thing because I do love them. And I think it's important to let your people know that they're loved. It's like family. Friends become like family over time. And you want to treat that friend just like you would a family member that's always there, that's always going to be there. You got to love them people, and you got to not be afraid to tell them people that you love them. And I don't always do the best. I try. And my own ego still gets in the way sometimes. There's still some people out there that I want to tell that I love. There's some gentlemen out there that when I get off the phone with them, I want to tell them that I love. And there's still like some barrier that I feel like is there, some manly barrier that's in between us where I just feel like I can't tell them I love them. And I don't know if it's maybe because I feel like they're calloused and maybe they just don't want to hear it. And I know that's not the truth. I know that's actually probably the opposite of the truth. I know, I'm probably going to text those people. Yeah, I got to text some people too. If I'm going to tell you to do it, I got to text some people too. I'm going to do that now. As soon as I get done with this podcast, I got to text a couple of people. Yeah. Man, that one hit me. I wasn't even expecting that. That's all right. That's why we're doing this. We're learning. We're growing. We're making each other better. That's what we're doing. And I really think that some good's going to come from this. I think that we can all grow together. I think that we can all learn a lot from each other. I think that, I'm looking forward to it so much. And I know this was just a totally random rant, and that's probably what it's going to be the most time I sit down and kick it on this microphone. But that's just what I want to do. I wanted a place where I could come. This is my place that I created, that I can sit down at, and I can just have my space where I can just say whatever I want, and I don't have to worry about anybody else's opinion. I do not care. It's me and a camera, and I can say anything that I want. And man, it's so liberating. There's so much freedom that's found right here in this seat. And I would love if you would join me. I would love if you would come and sit and kick it with me. I would love if you would come and share your story, share some experience, some strength, and some hope with some other gentlemen. Share some things that you're going through, and let's get real raw. I mean, if there's something you want to talk about, maybe that isn't talked about, maybe some stuff that you're going through that you're a little embarrassed about, but you feel like you might be able to gain something if you you could maybe hear from some other gentlemen that may be going through the same thing. You know, if there's any topics that you want to talk about, if there's any kind of people that you want me to reach out and try to get on the show, let's just do that. Let's just do that. Nothing's really off limits, gentlemen. Let's just make things happen. Let's help each other. Let's grow. Tell me what you need. Tell me how I can help. How can Man to Mike help you? Gentlemen, be true to yourself. Love yourself. Tell your people that you love them. This is Man to Mike. I'll see you soon. Love y'all. I'm out.